The story I want to cover is the whole Anthony Joshua, and he got brutally knocked out by Daniel Dubois, and that fight was so entertaining and at the same time so. Okay, another day, another video, and in today's video I have a lot of things that I want to cover. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into the video. In the first story, of course, we're going to start off current news or current affairs. The first story I want to cover is the whole Anthony Joshua, and he got brutally knocked out by Daniel Dubois, and that fight was so entertaining and at the same time so surprising because so many people had Daniel Dubois as the underdog and Joshua as the favorite. So the fact that Daniel Dubois dominated Joshua from round 1 until the 5th round, where he finally knocked him down, and he stayed down because he knocked him out. He knocked him down a few times from round 1 to round 5. But round 5 is when he knocked him down and he didn't get up, and obviously Joshua lost the fight. So, and Anthony Joshua was a heavy favorite in this match. Everybody was rooting for him. He entered into a Wembley Stadium which had 96,000 people in it, who a majority of them were rooting for Joshua. And as I said, Daniel Dubois was seen as the underdog, but he definitely dominated Joshua. He beat him up. He made him look unprepared. He just beat him up. He made him look like an amateur, because Joshua himself and his promoter also admitted that there were a lot of rookie mistakes that Joshua made in that fight that he shouldn't have done and usually doesn't do. So the fact that he got beat like that, I'm gonna be honest, I was rooting for Joshua, and I knew it was gonna be a hard fight for him, and I knew it was gonna be an entertaining fight where they were gonna exchange blows and here and there. But I didn't expect Daniel Dubois to fully come out and just dominate him and beat him up and make him look like he's an amateur. But of course, I know a lot of people are quick to say, yeah, Joshua is done, he's turning 35, whatever. He still looks in great shape. So I think he's going to go back to the drawing board. He's going to review all his options. He's going to make sure he's in a good position mentally, physically, to come back to the game. I don't think he's done yet. I feel like he still has 5 more years or so, and that's my take on it, to give to the boxing. And a lot of people are saying the boxing has left him. That's nonsense. He's been a prime boxer for almost his entire life. He's been in situations like this almost his entire life. He's overcome adversity. So the fact that I think this is just a hiccup in his pathway to his legacy, and he's gonna come back and he's gonna be better. And I don't know who is he gonna match up against, but I just hope he gets a chance to get back at Daniel Dubois. But overall, Daniel Dubois deserves the all-around applause for doing a great job, because he definitely showed everyone he's not an underdog anymore. Okay, moving on to the next story, which also kind of coincides with boxing and just warrior on warrior, is the LAAMB. I recently stumbled upon the LAAMB. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. If not, apologies. The LAAMB documentary, which was done by a professional rugby player I think his name is Max Lahif. Rugby Pals also, I think, they took part in making this documentary. It's a 25-minute documentary where he basically goes to Senegal to showcase a sport which has been a huge phenomenon. Apart from football, this sport has been cited as to be the biggest thing in Senegal apart from football, because it's huge, it's entertainment, it's an event that lasts almost 7 hours. So it's a huge event, and I urge everybody to go out there and check it out, because the sport itself has become a way of life for many people. As we know, Senegal, as an African country, doesn't really have a lot of options for young people to make it out of the trenches and become prominent figures in society. So the sport has offered a lot of people a way out, a way to feed themselves, a way to provide for themselves and their family. So I urge everybody to go and check out the documentary. It truly gives you insight into the mindset of warriors, into the mindset of combat, physical combat, and it was just insightful. It's been a while since I've sat in front of a screen and not flinch, because I was just focused on watching the whole documentary, and it's just 25 minutes. So if you get time, go and check it out. Okay, moving on to something more, I would say, serious to a certain degree, and it's the whole controversy which has been happening between ShxtsNGigs and Andrew Schultz, where basically ShxtsNGigs, James and Fuad went on the Flagrant podcast, if I'm not mistaken, which was like a month ago and some days, and that just was during their tour of America, and they went there, they sat down with Andrew Schultz and his team, and along, Andrew Schultz did make a few jokes which maybe didn't sit well with James, particularly Fuad, especially when he was talking, when he made a joke, or when he was citing that where he was asking where Fuad, what kind of tribe is Fuad from, and I think if I remember carefully, Fuad said he's Yoruba, and then he was asking who are the scammers, who are the smart people, who are the lazy ones, and then he was asking him what stereotype is usually put on Nigerians, and he obviously Fuad was just saying, according to you, bro, he didn't give out anything, he didn't play into whatever Andrew Schultz was trying to make of the situation. But the situation that really got a lot of people mad was the whole black girlfriend effect, where James and Fuad were asked to give their experience or to give their opinion on what it means to have a black girl, a black girlfriend, in terms, if you're a white guy, what does that mean for you, and how does that kind of affect you? And they started off by saying, usually when a white guy gets a black girlfriend, usually starts to cut his hair lower, taper fade, usually starts to put on more swag, usually acts differently. And he basically, Andrew Schultz was like, no, that's a defensive mechanism. They do that because they're scared, And in the way it sounded like a joke. And James and Ford obviously laughed it off, and then obviously the whole podcast went on, and they concluded. And a month later, or some days, people are outraged because of that, because they feel like James and Ford should have done better. They didn't protect their black queens. They let Andrew Schultz make a racist joke to some people, and they didn't check him, and they just laughed along. They didn't do anything necessarily. But to my point of view, I think there's two sides of the story, and I understand both. There's the side of the outrage, which is arguably right, and there's this other side of to say it was a joke and it didn't mean that nothing. And I don't think James and Fuad really understood what was going on. Now let's start with the anger and frustration of people having in terms of why Andrew Schultz made this joke. A lot of people think or believe that the whole media, or just the whole media landscape, is set up in a way where black women are not represented in the right way, and to a certain degree are not respected, And I love the way I watched Ryan Clark on his Pivot podcast, where he gave a beautiful take where he said a black woman is somebody who's strong, resilient, and at times black women are seen as combative, but it's not really as them being combative. Combative is just them being accepting of their roles, and them accepting the fact that in the past they have been done wrong, and a lot of people have taken advantage of them, and this makes it harder for them to trust and just open up and be fragile and be open to just being around people. And I'm gonna be honest, I was raised by a lot of black women, strong black women, who didn't take any nonsense from anybody, who didn't allow anybody to walk all over them, who are not I wouldn't say they were combative, but they knew their worth and they were not willing to negotiate with anybody when it came to that. And that's why I understand the outrage to say, why would a white guy who has never dated a black guy, a black girlfriend, a black girl, to my research, who's married to a white woman, why would he be making a joke, or why would he give his take on an experience that he has never experienced? So I get that point where people are outraged. Okay, now moving on to this side where a lot of people, especially I see both sides. And a lot of people are saying it was a joke. There's not really nothing about it. And then to play into this side, I'm saying I understand if the outrage came when the podcast was published. As soon as the podcast was published, I didn't see anything in sense of people saying, no, why did you say that? Why did you laugh at that? Why did you not ask him to take that out? Why did you not step off the podcast? Why? And the thing is, Andrew Schultz is a comedian. He's been making jokes like this, I think, for his entire career. So the fact that people are now getting angry for the content that a lot of people that has made Andrew Schultz, he's made it to the top because he's been a comedian who has made a lot of controversial jokes that not everybody will be able to do and get away with. So I understand him, especially when he came out and he said, yeah, there was no malice behind it. He made a joke and the guys laughed at it. And ShxtsNGigs had to apologize. And I personally think my take, you guys can come for me or whatever, my take is they shouldn't have apologized because they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't play into the stereotype. They laughed at the joke because they sense in that setting it is a joke, and they didn't fuel into it. They were not like, yeah, that's exactly why they have to get a bus card, that's exactly why. No, they just let the moment happen and they carried on. And I think for them, it didn't even register in their mind that this is a problem that we are going to have to deal with later. This is the problem that we have to check once we leave the podcast, and so and so. So my overall take is, this is an issue, of course. Andrew Schultz shouldn't be the one obviously giving takes on the black girlfriend experience, but in the same light, it was a joke. I believe it was a joke. I don't believe that he had any ill intent. So I think people were saying it's a humiliation ritual. I don't believe that. I feel like he made a joke in light of the people who were sitting with him on the podcast, and that's it. And the other thing is also, this is not the thing that people should be rallying against and being angry about, because Andrew Schultz is not even the issue. The issue is with the music. The issue is with the content being put out there into the world, the content being put out there to the masses. Because let's be honest, a lot of content that's on TikTok, that's on YouTube, is not helping change the narrative of people saying black women are combative, black women are this. It's not changing. It's just fueling into that whole idea that because a lot of content you see is black women trying to be combative with other people, even in instances where the whole situation doesn't require for anything. The whole instance is and there is a whole narrative of people saying, yeah, we, especially black women, this is from my take, from my experience, where they're like, no, we don't need no man, this and that and that. And the thing is, people need to understand, these narratives being portrayed out into the media, out in social media platforms, they do get trickled down to everybody else, and everybody else will be having their own opinion, and in turn it forms a narrative that can be hard to do away. So I personally think Andrew Schultz made a joke, James and Fuad laughed at it, but there was no malice behind it, and the whole internet cannot rally against this one thing when they let all the other things which are more dangerous slide. So that's all I had to say on that. And moving on, of course, moving on to the next topic is that Al Jazeera, let me just read an article which I got from AP News. It says, Israel soldiers raided and shut down Al Jazeera's bureau in Ramallah in the West Bank. Troops raided the offices of the satellite news network Al Jazeera in the Israeli-occupied West Bank early Sunday, ordering the bureau to shut down and widening campaign by Israel targeting the Qatar-funded broadcast as it covers the Israel-Hamas war in the Gaza Strip. Al Jazeera aired footage of Israel troops live on its Arabic language channel, ordering the office to be shut down for 45 days. It follows an order issued in May that saw Israeli police raid Al Jazeera's broadcast position in East Jerusalem, seizing equipment they're presenting, and it's broadcasting in the Israel region. Basically, there you can find the whole full article on AP News. Basically, just showed soldiers, Israeli soldiers going in and shutting down Al Jazeera. Of course, this is a developing story, so I don't really have a lot of information yet, or everything that I've read doesn't make up to the full story. So of course, once the full story fully develops, I'll come back with a more informed and more accurate and factual assessment of the story. Okay, the last story when it comes to current news that I want to do is the fact that South Africa, the Reserve Bank has dropped the repo rate, or it has decreased a bit. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be like, what is the repo rate? Why should I care? How is it affecting me? The repo rate, to be honest, is, in simple terms, is basically the rate or the interest rate put on the loans that the Reserve Bank gives to commercial banks, and that in turn affects the loans, the interest rates put on the loans that you take out from the commercial banks. So if you are taking out huge loans from the commercial banks, then the repo rate dropping helps you have a decreased interest rate when it comes to you paying back the amount of money that you take from the bank. So the repo rate being low means interest rates on the money that you borrowed from the bank is lower. So that's basically the simplest explanation I can give in terms of the repo rate. So obviously it's going to help out a lot of people who have been taking out huge loans, either to buy cars, to buy homes, to pay off debt. It's going to help them because it's going to drop their interest rates on the loans that they've taken out a little bit. So you're okay. To wrap this up, I'm going to obviously move on to the sports section, and I'm basically just going to run through this. In the Premier League, we saw West Ham United basically get beat by Chelsea. We saw Aston Villa lose. We saw Aston Villa beat Wolves 3-1. Fulham obviously beat Newcastle 3-1 to Southampton, and Ipswich Town played out to a stalemate. Tottenham beat Brentford 3-1. Leicester and Everton played out to a stalemate 1-1. Liverpool beat Bournemouth 3-0. We saw Crystal Palace and Man United play out to a 0-0 stalemate. And of course, as a United fan, this was another disappointing play, especially coming off them beating Barnsley 7-0, and it looked like Rashford was back, Garnacho was firing on all cylinders, Bruno Fernandes was making phenomenal passes, and it felt like everything was finally coming into order. But as we all know, in recent United form, nothing is guaranteed. They can play the most amazing game they have played in their whole entire, not existence, but recent history. And then they come on the weekend, they play against Crystal Palace. No disrespect on Crystal Palace, but when it comes to Man United, there's a standard. You have to beat teams like Crystal Palace. So the fact that you're drawing 0-0 with them is just like, it feels like another setback, you know. Okay, let's continue. And of course, we saw Brighton and Nottingham Forest play out to a stalemate, which they played out 2-2, and both of the managers of the respective teams were sent off. They both received red cards. Apologies. And then we saw Man City and Arsenal, I believe, play out to a 2-2 stalemate too. This was an amazing game. It was 2-1 at halftime. Everybody thought Arsenal was cruising to a victory. But of course, in Man City fashion, they came back and made sure they showed Arsenal that this is our home. You're not just going to come here and take the 3 points. You're going to have to end them. And at the end of the day, they both ended up drawing and they both ended up getting a point. So we move on to La Liga. We saw Alaves beat Sevilla 2-1. We saw Vallecado and Real Sociedad play out to a 0. Apologies for me butchering these names. We saw Osasuna beat Las Palmas 2-1. We saw Valencia, of course, beat Girona to 2-0. Yeah, Girona is not looking good. They had a beautiful season last season. They had a beautiful season where a lot of people thought they were even going to win the league, as they were on top for a long time, but it's not looking good. They lost here again. And then, of course, we go to the champions. We go to Real Madrid, who beat Espanyol 4-1. And then we saw Getafe and Leganes play out to a 1-1 draw. And that's basically it. That's basically all I had for sports. And that also brings us to the end of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Apologies again for the whole stuttering and maybe mispronunciation of names. Something I have to work on, and I promise you it's gonna get better. So without wasting any more of your time, please do subscribe to the channel, like the videos, share the videos, and yeah, just be around, interact with us, leave a comment on things that we can improve in, specifically me. Leave a comment if there's something that you want us to cover. Leave a comment if there's a certain topic that you just want to engage with us. So without wasting any more time, love. See you in the next video. Enjoy your night. Bye bye.